We have been through a long season where people have not wanted to hear the truth or know the truth. But times are a-changing. Pastor John Kilpatrick of Church of His Presence prophesied about this very thing, and author of 12 Rules for Life, Dr. Jordan Peterson, is proving this to be true as he speaks at Oxford about truth and political correctness and so much more. Take a look. Be sure to subscribe and press alert to get new notifications of new success secrets made available on VFN TV. You know, we're going to be talking about how hungry people are for truth. For how long did we go, John? And you're thinking like, is anybody care about the truth? Right?
Believe in all kind of lies, telling lies.
They didn't even care. And you tell us, like, you prove it's a lie. They go, like, oh, I've known that.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's like they weren't even interested in the truth. And that's a very sad time. But it's so exciting now to see where people are getting hungry for the truth.
Times are changing.
Times are changing. But I remember Pastor John Kilpatrick of Church of His Presence prophesying in 2017, January, and he talked about that people will begin to get hungry again for the truth. Let's go back and hear this prophecy.
He then asked me, how do you spell truth? I said, T-R-U-T-H. The Lord said He's changing the appetites of people. Instead of the public now rejoicing in rumors, they will now become excited to hear the truth again. They will develop a love for the truth and reject the lies as well as the liars. This will not be true of everyone in every place, but a shift has already happened. Truth had fallen in the streets, but I tell you, I'm lifting it up again, and it shall cause great rejoicing. I, the Lord, have done this by my own power, by my right arm of might, and by my justice. Give God praise. Hallelujah.
We're so excited about our new book, I Will Fight, Strategies for Your Success. You got to have a strategy and you got to fight. It's not about a physical fight, but you got to fight. And guess what? If you fight, you win. You'll be successful. This book is about transforming your thoughts, about what your beliefs, the decisions that you're making, about speaking. What you say is so powerful, and what you do, what you're saying, your actions you take. And quitting, don't quit. Listen, success and failure quite often is just 5 more minutes. And finally, think about this. So many people talk about you should do this, and you should do this, and you should do this. And look what they're doing. They're not doing nothing. You can't let people tell you you should do this. As a matter of fact, they can't be putting their should on you. This is so important. Listen, we want to bless you with your free copy of I Will Fight, Strategies for Your Success. You can get it at vfnkb.com. That's vfnkb.com. Get your free copy today. Think about that. I, the Lord, have done this thing by my strong right arm, by my justice. And so God, you think, what's wrong with people? It's like, you know, if God backs off from us, we can't even tie our shoes. And you're looking outside of God reaching down and touching us, we wouldn't be hungry for truth. And so He's changing hearts by just His strong right arm. And you're starting to see people, John, Oxford University, I mean, that is a liberal university, liberal arts.
Doesn't get much liberal in
Right, you know, it's liberal arts. And so you're going there, you know, many people come from there. It's reported a great university. But in regards to if it's liberal, if I guess you could put it that way, or just
progressive maybe?
Yes, maybe. But they just, you know, it seems slanted in a big way. But now, I mean, you have Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson, you know, I don't know him personally.
Okay.
He did write this book. The book is called 12 Rules for Life, an Antidote for Chaos, because we're seeing so much chaos, and chaos comes when you don't have the truth. Truth is what brings things together. And so he's coming, John, is speaking at different places. He spoke in Texas, he spoke in different places, and when he speaks, men who haven't heard truth, men are designed from, and everybody is men and women, but men just, they want to hear the rules. You know, what's it?
What do I need to do? What do I need to be?
Do I stop at green or do I go at green? And when the things are so chaotic, you know, men can't find their place, women can't find their place in the context of that. So he's sharing what he has on his heart about accuracy and what the standard things and what things have been truth for so long. And when he does, men begin to cry, grown men begin to cry. They're just so thankful. And he writes about this and his experiences in his book. But he goes to Oxford, and he's the last place this speaker of truth, and not that there's not truth at Oxford, but in regards to conservative principles, principles that just have been since the beginning of time, and that, you know, there's you know, 2 genders, and there's this and that, very specifics, you know, and people packed Oxford out to hear him speak. And so I'm waiting when he's speaking. I'm thinking, You know, they're going to give a question and answer time. I'm just waiting for that one moment they get done. It's like, you lost your mind. John Day gave him not a standing ovation because where they were, but they just clapped and clapped. They were so hungry for the truth.
Isn't he addressing these issues about political correctness and, you know, going really just sharing it the way it is?
Right.
It's amazing.
Well, you think about it, who's more frustrated than students in schools? Because they're pushing this agenda of political correctness all the way from grammar all the way up to high school, and to universities and colleges, and the students are human beings. They're going like, I need to know, do I stop on green or do I go on green? I need some definites in my life. And so he's saying, the question they're asking, one of the students asked him the question, you know, what do you think, not one of the students was interviewing him, what do you think at Oxford, what do you think about political correctness? So they're asking him a very specific question. This is actually Jordan Peterson answering the question. You got to brace yourself and turn everything off because you got to listen. He's an intellectual.
He's deep intellectual.
but he's building a narrative to help us understand. I'm not just saying this. This is the way it's been. It's context from it. And if you got to relax a little bit and listen. And he works his way around. He gets back to the very end. It's like, this is just how it is. And that's when he gets an ovation right there at Oxford University for speaking truth. Please, somebody speak to us the truth. Let's join right now. This is Oxford University. Jordan Peterson talking about, answering the question, you know, what do you think about political correctness?
So my first question is, political correctness is a rather vague term that refers to a wide range of issues, from preventing explicitly racist hate speech to calling out someone for wearing culturally insensitive clothes. Do you think that we should universally reject political correctness, or is there a line that can be drawn?
Well, that was the other thing I was thinking about talking about tonight, and I'm actually having a debate in Canada about that very proposition tomorrow. So here's what I've been thinking about that, trying to formulate my thoughts for my 6-minute initial opening remarks tomorrow. It's a very tight time constraint. So think about it this way. Imagine that you need to describe the world in order to perceive the world and to act in it, both of those, not just to act in it, but also to perceive it, and that you need a description at different levels of resolution. You know, and you can think about how you use your computer when you're dealing with images. You know, there are some times when what you really need is a thumbnail, because it doesn't require much processing power, and it's sufficiently representative of the reality so that you can do whatever you need to do with the image with the thumbnail. And you never replace the thumbnail with a high-resolution image if the thumbnail will do. And I really like that. I don't think it's an analogy. I actually think it's a description of a very large number of cognitive operations. And maybe there's a rule of thumb, which is never use a high-resolution theory when a low-resolution theory will do. The converse is also true, by the way. So then let's say that in order to orient ourselves properly in society, we need a general-purpose, low-resolution theory, existential theory. Something like that. It's not precisely a description of the objective world. It's more like an agreed upon, it's an agreed upon narrative about how the world is constructed in relationship to human experience and how we should act in the world. So how we should look at ourselves, how we should look at history, how we should look at our social being so that we can coexist peacefully, so that we can move forward, so that our societies function. And then imagine that that comes in broadly two forms. And I think it does. One is a collectivist form, and I would say that that collectivist form is built very deeply into human nature. It's essentially a tribal outlook. It's an outlook that you can trace back hundreds of thousands of years, and perhaps more deeply than that. We know, for example, that chimpanzees have a tribal outlook, and that chimpanzees will patrol the borders of their tribes, looking for chimpanzees who aren't of the tribe, and when they find them, they will tear them into pieces. And so that was revealed by Jane Goodall in the 1970s. It was very shocking to everyone when that was first discovered, because there was a very influential line of thinking, mostly derived from people who were influenced by Rousseau, that, you know, human beings were innately good and that only culture made them cruel and capable of atrocity. But the fact that the chimpanzees patrol their borders and tear apart their enemies really did that theory in a very serious way. So at least made it more complicated. So the collectivist view is essentially that the best way to conceptualize what a human being is to look at what tribe they belong to. And the tribe might be, well, this is one of the problems with the collectivist view, is which of your tribal allegiances is to be paramount. And that's actually a fatal problem, by the way, because there's an infinite number of ways you could be categorized, and it isn't obvious which of those tribal allegiances should be canonical, and hence the rise of intersectionality, which is something that's a dragon that will eat its own tail, certainly. But there's a notion there. It's like the most important thing about, forget about that for a minute. We'll say, well, the most important thing about you is your group, your gender, your sex, your race, your ethnicity, all of the multiple categories that we're supposed to be considering as fundamental realities now. And that the best way to construe reality is that it's a battleground between those groups for dominance, power. And that's the postmodern ethos, and it's a pretty decent thumbnail sketch of reality. You can sum it up quite quickly. You can use it as a guide to action in all sorts of domains. It has its consequences, however. And one of the consequences is that it's tribal. And tribal identities tend towards mayhem. Now, the alternative low-resolution view is the view that I think has been articulated most effectively in the West, and perhaps of all the places where it's been most effectively articulated in the West, the most effective articulation has come from the UK. I mean, there's something remarkable about what your country has done with regards to laying out the idea of individual sovereignty in a fully articulated manner, in a way that allows a political system to arise predicated on the assumption that the individual is of intrinsic value. And if you need a thumbnail view of the world, the most effective thumbnail view of the world isn't that you're the member of a tribe, even though in many ways you are, and the member of many tribes. The most effective thumbnail view is that you're to be regarded as a sovereign individual, and you're to treat other people that way as well, both with regards to their rights, but even more importantly, and often forgotten, with regards to their responsibilities. And I think that polities that are based on the first set of presuppositions, the tribal, degenerate into precisely what you'd expect, which is tribal warfare. And the second have the possibility of blooming into exactly what they have bloomed into, which are the most functional societies, the most peaceful societies, the most successful societies, the societies that are the best at generating wealth along with inequality that the world has ever seen. And so I would say we sacrifice the latter to the former at our great peril. And I would also say that, and this is something that I'm very ashamed of, is that the universities, broadly speaking, are doing absolutely everything they can, as fast as they possibly can, to ensure that we sacrifice the sovereign individual view for the collective tribal view. And I think that is appalling beyond forgiveness. And so that's what I think about political correctness.
That's so powerful when you see that. They're on the Oxford University, and they're saying basically, what do you think about the stuff they're doing to us? And Peter's, he says, literally, this is what's happening on the universities. They're polarizing everyone, dividing everyone. It's tribalism, and it's postmodernism, which is basically do away with everything that you historically have. And he's saying it's just ripping us apart. And I love what he said was, and we got to go to a break here, but listen, he said, that the ultimate thing is that each person is sovereign and accountable to themselves.
An individual.
And that's where the American Constitution says that, each man you're created by God. Your rights come from God. And that the government is for you in America, it's not over you.
Yeah, you're not for the government.
The government's for you, and it comes out of UK, United Kingdom. That's where where our founding fathers come from. And so the context of that is that, and he goes on further in this discussion, we'll make the whole thing available to you there for Oxford, but he's talking about how America formulated and how we came out, and that it's so important because America was designed on the fact of the founding fathers that men are basically evil, and it has to be outside of God. It's not going to work, and you got to have a balance of powers, because you're going to have people that get into leadership that are just Looney Tunes or crazy,
yeah.
And it's going to keep them. It's going to keep that from
absolute power corrupts.
Absolutely. And you can't just say it's going to work out. And tribalism is saying mine better than yours, we're better than. And God loves us all.
Yeah.
And when you see people trying to divide you from what God created, don't let them do that. You know, that's what political correctness is about. And the church, as Christians, you know, all over the world, we're about sticking together and staying together and even loving people outside of our tribe, loving people that we don't, if a stranger walks up to you, you don't know them, you still love them because you want to share with them the love of God. Right. And also we're not about, compartmentalizing that type of thing. I think it's some great wisdom, from what he's sharing. And it was just encouraging to see this liberal arts university, and the applause went on for a lot longer than you actually saw. And to see that, it's refreshing because these are our leaders for tomorrow.
It's intelligent conversation and not, again, people loving the truth and not willing to believe in lies anymore.
Right.
It's great.
And so listen, we want to hear from you. Comment below, email us. We want to hear what your thoughts on this actual, what about political correctness? We don't become haters and all that kind of stuff, but we just want to hear what your thoughts on it. I think everybody's important and everybody's personally accountable to God, and that we should actually love each other while speaking the truth in love. Be sure to subscribe and press alert to get new notifications of new success secrets made available on VFN TV. A lot of people want to abide with the Lord, but they just don't have a plan to do it. You can request that plan today at iabide.org. I'm your host, Greg Lancaster, and we're so glad that you've joined us. Don't forget you can join us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download our app and sign up for our newsletter, The Torch, at vfnkb.com. I've enjoyed our time together. God bless.